Have you ever really stopped to think about who makes the rules for the food you eat? It's not just about what happens on the farm. There's this whole world of unseen rules, from official government policies all the way down to unwritten codes on the street that shape every single meal. So let's dig in and figure out who's really calling the shots.
Okay, picture this. This is where it all goes down. These busy, vibrant, informal markets. They're the absolute lifeblood of cities all across the continent. This is where millions and millions of people get their daily food. But just beneath all that energy, there's a constant power struggle happening.
And this quote, wow, it gets right to the heart of the tension, doesn't it? The official policies often have one goal, but the reality on the ground is something completely different. And that clash can sometimes be, well, pretty intense.
So let's just ask the question directly. Imagine you're a vendor. You're on the street selling something delicious, like nyama choma in Kenya, or maybe some pepe soup in Nigeria. Who actually sets the rules for your business? Who's your boss? The answer is way more complicated than you might think.
All right, so first, let's take a look at the official system, the world on paper. These are the rules that are literally written down in law books and policy documents. On paper, the goal here is pretty straightforward. Make sure food is safe, make sure hygiene is good, and keep trade orderly. You've got national governments, ministries of health, ministries of agriculture, all creating these laws and policies to control everything. It's classic top-down governance.
And these are some of the big players, the agencies responsible for enforcing those formal rules. You've got KEBS in Kenya, NAFDAC in Nigeria, ZABS in Zambia. Their job is to make sure all those standards for quality and safety are actually being met.
But, and this is a huge but, here's the reality check. A staggering 70% of households in urban Africa get their food from these informal markets. 70%. That's massive. And it means that those official, formal rules often don't even reach the places where most of the food is actually being bought and sold.
So that brings us to the other system of governance, the one you won't find in any law book. This is the one that operates from the ground up, right there on the street.
And down here, the real power brokers are not who you'd expect. It's not always the government. Sometimes it's traditional leaders who decide who gets to set up a stall where. You have market associations that basically act like mini governments. They manage the selling spaces, they provide security, they settle fights. And a lot of the time, the most powerful rule of all is simply trust. Your reputation is everything.
So what happens when these two powerful systems, the formal, on-paper world, and the informal, on-the-street world, smack into each other? Well, things get messy. There's a lot of friction. This table just lays out the divide perfectly. On one side, you have written laws, official permits. On the other, it's all about customs, social trust, and verbal agreements. And look at the challenges. For the formal system, they often don't have the resources to actually enforce their own rules. And for the informal system, it's the constant threat of harassment from officials and a total lack of basic infrastructure. And it is so important to remember that behind all this talk about systems are people. We're talking about millions of vendors who are working tirelessly, sometimes from 4 in the morning till 10 at night, just to bring fresh, affordable food to their communities.
For these vendors, the clash of systems creates a really harsh daily reality. They're facing constant threats of being evicted, they often have no access to basics like running water or sanitation, they have zero legal protection, and as if all that wasn't enough, they're now facing this growing competition from huge supermarkets that are expanding, often without much regulation either. And what this means at the end of the day is that even with all that incredibly hard work, just making a living is a constant battle. The prices change all the time, their profit margins are razor thin, and it makes their essential work just so incredibly precarious. But, okay, this story of conflict and challenge, it's also a story of immense potential. The key here isn't to pick a winner between the two systems. The real opportunity, the big idea, is finding a way to connect these two worlds. It's about creating policies that actually recognize the vital role these informal markets play, and then giving them the support and the infrastructure they need to thrive, safely and legally. Because when we finally understand and support every part of this complex system, from the government ministry all the way down to the street vendor, we can see that Africa's food system is, without a doubt, one of the continent's absolute greatest opportunities.